It is 10 o'clock and we have public input, but as far as I can tell, we have no public on the line. So I'd like a motion to adopt the agenda. Terry and Dirk, any additions to the agenda? All in favor? Okay. Okay, so we're just going to dive right in. We've got 2 hours. I got a couple of comments that I want to make at first, because this is, once again, we are reviewing our strategic plan that we created at the beginning of this term. And so this is, you know, kind of a small review. We're not starting over. That's why we don't have a facilitator. We're doing this ourselves. It's really just to sort of fine tune it, you know, any emergent issues, anything like that. So our intent is really to keep on the track that we laid out for ourselves at the beginning of our term. And when this term is over and the next term starts, the new council will then have a chance to go through and put in all their, you know, their new direction or same direction, whatever they want to do. So, but the thing I want to point out is this document tells a lot about us, not only our goals, but also our values as an organization. And it sets the tone of our corporate culture, as well as laying out our priorities. So I think it's really important that we, you know, we use words carefully here. And then just for me, this is now my 13th year in local government, and I've seen a lot of changes in Roslyn. I believe they represent positive change, and I'm very proud of all the work that everyone has done that's gone into our little city over this more than a decade. And I think we need to celebrate our accomplishments a little bit, maybe more than we do. It's something we might think about as we go forward this year too. But just a quick recap, you know, through the hard work of staff and really dedicated staff, a lot of changes have been undertaken. We've modernized the organization. We've adopted an asset management plan that ensures we stay on top of our aging infrastructure as best we can afford. Our financial administrative reporting has been vastly improved over the years. Our planning and recreation departments are both, they've increased in competency and professionalism. Public Works has had an influx of new, younger, energetic people, and we now have a new manager as well. And importantly, I've seen important changes in how we relate to each other. As you guys know, I've been on other councils that are really dysfunctional and don't work well together at all. It's great to have disagreements, but being able to do so civilly is really important. And I think we've accomplished that, and I'm really happy about that. But there's also been in the past tensions between City Hall and Public Works, and I think a lot of that has dissipated too. A lot of that old animosity, us and them kind of stuff is gone. And I think it's great because we're able to work you know, more collaboratively for the benefit of our community. So for all that, I want to thank everybody on this call, whether I can see your face or not. I know staff is there as guests. Okay, so now that said, there's still plenty of room for improvement, and hopefully the strat plan review will reflect some of those aspirational goals as well as the nuts and bolts of what we're going to get done. So what I want to do today is go through at the beginning. We're going to start at the beginning of the strat plan, and everyone will have the opportunity to give their input. And that means staff too. It's called the council's strategic plan, and it is, but because we work as a team, it's important to hear everybody's ideas. So with that, we're going to go and start at the beginning. We'll start with the mission statement. Rachel, can you put the document up on our screen? Is that possible?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, can we just adopt the agenda before we start with this?
Sorry, we all voted on it, and I thought we all voted on it, we agreed, so we did. Okay. You didn't see our little hands flapping in the breeze? Is it possible to have the plan up on the screen, or do we need to have our own up on each of our own screens? Perfect. Okay. So where we're here on these, we've got 2 pages up there. So what I want to do is just have, and I can't see staff. So if staff wants to make a comment, and I can't actually see everybody. So you know what I'd like to do is maybe rather than have you raise your hand, if you can just speak, because we're a small enough group and this is a committee of the whole, and that'll help. Janice.
I was just going to say, Kathy, there should, if you run your mouse along the side of the screen that Rachel's showing you, you should find a spot where you can push the screen a little smaller and more people will pop up. So you
You're right, there you are. Okay, I see all of council. Thank you. And I see staff. Good. And I see Scott. Okay, so that's, so, okay, then we'll do it the regular way. If you want to speak, put up your hand. And Okay, now I've lost the staff room, but I still see Scott. Oh, I've lost Scott too. Anyway, I do want staff to participate. So you guys, please, you know, unmute your video and your voice and speak up if there's something you want to add in this. So the first stuff is just the introduction and the process, which we don't need to change that because that's already done. But next we go into the vision, the mission, and the value statement. So I'd like to know, does anyone have anything to say about the vision statement and the mission statement? Dirk, I see your hand up.
Yeah. I don't know which one it is. I kind of went through this with a red pen to make it more concise. And there were a lot of things in here that there was too much in here, I think. One of the things I wanted to start with was being a viable city isn't really a very good goal. That's like saying, I'd like to stay alive. I think we should change that to a sustainable city.
Okay. Let's see. So you are in the mission statement.
I believe I am. I don't know where I am, to be honest.
Yeah, you are. You're in there. So,
okay.
There was also a suggestion that came from Sarah that I thought was good, was that we don't really need to say residents, businesses, and visitors because we're providing these services to all. So we could we could delete that. Let's see, there was a hand up, Janice.
Yeah, I was going to just say that I liked Sarah's suggestion. You know, so it does say viable, sustainable community in the mission statement, but it does say sustainable, smart, diverse, and livable small city in the vision.
Right.
So maybe just want to.
Vision last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so the changes have been put in there as they stand right now, and I see staff has a hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, for clarity and for simplicity, is myself and Cynthia are both tracking changes on that stuff. So the conversation's there. If we get the intent of what we're looking at, we will provide a draft updated that will get circulated to council. This will then be going to formal document because we can't approve anything at a CAL meeting. This will then go to our next regular council meeting for additional input to make sure that happens. So we will track and change as this goes by. So just, you know, if you guys can be very clear what we want to change, we can change. It will not be reflected in the, on the document that is on the screen because that's just in the agenda package. So we're doing it in the back end. So I just want to let you guys know that we'll try to capture everything and then that we will still have opportunity to review it after this meeting.
Okay, that sounds great. Okay, so anybody else have comments on this one before I give mine? Terry. You're muted. You're still muted.
I like plain language. I think less is more. I'm with Dirk on get rid of viable. It's too broad and fuzzy, but I actually would opt to keep residents, businesses, and visitors in. It just says that it just speaks to our sort of three different target groups and reminds us who we're serving. So that's just me, and I'm not a hill to die on though.
Okay, does anybody else want to comment on that? I kind of went with Sarah's thing, is that these are the services we provide to everybody and we don't need to distinguish who we're providing to. Does anybody else want to say something about that?
Yeah, I'll weigh in. I think that I like what Terry was saying there in recognition of the fact that we are making an effort to recognize those three groups. I think that's important. Yeah.
Okay, well then let's say Terry, Janice?
Yeah, I just have to say I've never been comfortable with having visitors in our strat plan, mostly because we don't have any other customers of any other industry in our strat plan. Not that it would change how we support the tourism or our visitors or the services we provide, but services for visitors seems like something that should be in Tourism Roslin's strat plan, not necessarily council's.
That's interesting. I would kind of disagree with that myself, just because they are a part of our economy that is important, and they're a bigger segment than just, I mean, visitors can be anybody. They're not necessarily tourists. They could become somebody here as a visitor because they're here for business, right? They could be anything. Dirk?
Just a nice point of leaving out those three things is that it doesn't exclude anybody.
Yeah.
So no definition as to the three groups that are in. It's just kind of, hey, it's a great city, and if you're a bear,
yeah,
then, you know, you're welcome. So
yeah. That's good. Okay, we might, if there's enough interest in this, we might have a vote on that. If there's enough interest, otherwise we can leave it out. I wanted to add one thing. Well, let's see, what I had was to provide valuable municipal services and superior customer service in a cost-effective, collaborative, cooperative fashion to a well-managed and well-governed community. So I think the only thing I'm adding to what was there was superior customer service after municipal services. So with that change in there, maybe I'll take a vote on if that works. And if that doesn't, then we'll go back and talk about the other stuff we were taking out. Does that make sense?
Can you read it again?
Yeah. So to provide valuable municipal services.
Take out the S.
Wait a minute. To provide, no, hold on. To provide valuable municipal services and superior customer service in a cost-effective, collaborative, and cooperative fashion to ensure well-managed, well-governed community. Right, value. So it's to provide superior customer service is what we're after. After valuable municipal service and superior customer service.
I'll second that.
Can I make one? I could third it and make a comment.
Sure.
Just to me, superior is a relative term. So it's, I mean, something can be superior, but still pretty bad. I think if we swapped out superior with excellent.
Excellent. Okay. Sure. To me, excellent, superior, kind of the same, but I'm okay with that. Excellent. Okay. To provide valuable municipal service and excellent customer service in a cost-effective, and yeah, we got the rest of it is really kind of the same. Okay, is that okay? Okay, let's just take a vote on it just to say, because it is our mission statement. I hope we don't vote on every single thing, but on this one, okay, all in favor of this new mission statement? Okay, good. Okay, so, okay, now we're moving on to, does anybody want to talk about any of these things? These came out of that facilitated session. So do we want to change any of our values there? Dirk.
Me again. Dependability, it just sounded cheesy to me. I know maybe we were ambitious at the start, but we're not always going to do what we say we're going to do. We can change our minds. So dependability is not even super right. And then I started thinking about core values, and I don't know that anybody asked to define their own core values would give you 14 of them. I think that if we're going to have core values, they should really be core values, not all of our values.
Well, maybe the easier way there is to take out the word core and just say, these are our values.
Fair enough. I did have some thought as to which 3 core values I'd like to see there, but that's just something I'd put out there.
Okay, so let me ask the group, do you want to try and narrow the core values down to core, or do you want to leave them as values and move on? Stuart says no to core. How about the rest of you? Just put your hands up or down. We're going to move through this.
Sorry, sir, ask that again, Kathy?
Okay, so if you want to go in and define our values and really get them down to core, and so like, let's just say this group of 14 are general values that we want to include in how we govern the city. If you want to reduce those to core values, really isolate them, do a thumbs up. If you like to have it as, and we'll take the word core out. If you like to have the larger group, we take the word core out. If you want to narrow it down and make them our core values, then we will work on these words. So if you want to work on the words, put your thumbs up. So Dirk wanted to work on the words, his thumb goes up. Okay, people who don't want to work on the words, put their thumbs down. Okay. Okay, I would say we're going to leave them, we're going to take the word core out of there. Okay. So we're just going to say these are we will provide the following core paradigms. We will just say these are our values, the following values, right? I think that's good enough. Okay, now does anybody want to do anything about dependability? Do we want to say we will do what we say we will do as long as we want to? Janice.
Well, I think that usually what we say we're going to do is look into it, gather information, make a decision on it. Yeah, so really being dependable just means that, to me, that we're addressing things that are brought forward to us and we're saying we're going to address them, and we do.
Okay. Which
it doesn't mean the result is always going to be.
Yeah, it doesn't mean we might not change our mind, right? Yeah. So should that be reflected in some other way? Dirk, do you have any other language you'd want to put in there?
No, I think just, to me, this just kind of seems redundant. I mean, and of course, we're here to do this. We're going to be dependable. I approached this with a very active and well-charged red pen.
Uh-oh, we're going to need more than 2 hours.
No.
Okay. Okay. So, who else, by a show of thumbs up, wants to? You just want to delete dependability? Is that right? Okay. Who wants to delete dependability? I think rather than doing this through motion and second and all that, we're going to kind of go faster. Okay. And who is fine with dependability staying there? Put your thumbs up. Okay. So dependability is going to stay. Don't give up, Dirk. There'll be other things we can delete.
This means I have to be dependable now.
Yeah, you got to be dependable.
Burn out.
Anything else on this page? And staff, if you have anything, please chime in. And otherwise, we're going to move to the next page. Okay. Now, these are our big buckets. And what I was hoping that we'd keep these big buckets the same, but we could make changes within them or edits within them if there were things there. Now, if anyone wants to change any of the buckets, this is your time. Dirk.
This is just where the viable thing. I wanted to get rid of viable. That's a low bar. I want to be sustainable.
Where's viable?
The strategic goal at the top there. To be a viable, well-managed, well-governed city. Viable just...
Okay. So sustainable, we just changed that to sustainable, right?
That'd be my thought, yes.
Okay. Janice?
Yeah, the only thought I had was you had mentioned about, excellence in customer service, and we have our sustainable service delivery. We could add, provide safe, sustainable, reliable services in a predictable, cost-effective, and consistent with best practices and excellent customer service. We could fit as part of our service delivery.
Let's finish with Dirk's comment up here. Is everyone okay with just making it be sustainable, well-managed, governed city? Everybody okay with that? Anybody not? Okay, looks good. Okay, that's a change. And now we're going to Janice's comment where we add in, City of Roslyn will strive to provide safe, sustainable, reliable services in a predictable, cost-efficient manner consistent with best practices and excellent customer service. With that, or just, I think staff can probably wordsmith that, but just throw that in to sustainable.
Wherever it fits well.
I think that's.
I had that same suggestion plunked in there around Kathy's idea around excellent customer service. So that's a good fit for me.
Okay, excellent customer service. That was Dirk's word. That's good. Okay, so staff, you've got that one, right? So we'll move on to the next page. Okay, now here's where we make some specific things. Let's look at the first one, the optimal governance organizational processes. Does anybody have any comments on that one? Janice.
Yeah, oh good, I'm not muted. I thought that we might want to move item 1.3, which is the bylaw services from medium to high, given the last few conversations we've had about that.
That's a great idea.
Seeing as how it looks like we're going to go forward with it.
Yeah. Does anybody disagree with that? Okay. That goes to a high priority. Okay. Good. Anybody else? Dirk.
This was just me being red penny again, but in all of these things where we say we're going to review and improve them, I would like it just cleaner and get rid of improve. It's sort of obvious when you review something that your intent is to improve it. I'd like it simpler and cleaner, and
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fine. Anywhere it says improve, when we're reviewing, we're always going to improve. That's a given. Terry?
1.5 and 1.6. This is more about Terry getting brought up to speed, but it was curious to me to see 1.5 try to implement resource sharing with other communities, that was a low priority. And I guess I'd like to learn why that's low and why we wouldn't be always on the output for how to work with our neighbors and things like that. And then I just didn't know, I guess I tried to look through Shovel Ready and what that might mean. And I see it as high. So I don't want to hold up the meeting, but those are 2 question marks for me there.
Okay, well, I'll start with that. It's everything on this action plan is important. That's why it's here. There's tons of other stuff that goes on that we'd like to work on that don't even make it to this list. So even though it's a low priority, it's still something that is meant to be front and center of our minds and our staff's minds. The problem with resource sharing with other communities is there's not a whole lot of stuff we can do in cooperation. I know Public Works in the past has tried to do things with other communities, and that's really quite operational. So they do what they can do. We do have a motion out that has to do with the 100% renewable that will make a list of stuff we're going to buy and maybe be able to do a bulk buy of, I don't know, electric snow blowers or something, right? I mean, something, or electric vehicles, things like that. So it's there. I mean, everything on this, it's all relative. It's all important and it's all in front of us, but it might not all get done. So it's that one. And also because that one is a lot of it in here is operational, and operations runs their own operation. So Shovel Ready just means we've done the engineering for something. We're ready to go. As soon as a grant comes out, we're going to go for it. And so it's important that we keep that in there, because having shovel-ready projects enables us to get grants. If we don't have shovel-ready projects and the grant is announced, we can't take advantage of it. So that's just that.
No, that sounds great. Thanks.
Yeah. Let's see. I had one. Again, it had to do with customer service. One thing, and this is probably for the next strategic plan, but all of these things with everything being capitalized drives me crazy. I find sentences that have every word in them capitalized or most words in them capitalized, to be really annoying. So not that anybody has to go through and do that, but I'd say in the future, just write it without the capitalization. Let's see. So, okay, I guess that's it. Nobody has any more for 1, optimal governance, organizational processes. Staff, do you guys have anything in there?
No, we are just looking for context to update and amend.
Okay, I did have one. Now that I look at it here, I've got 1.4. I'd like it to add after it says team building, leadership, morale, and say with an increased focus on excellent customer service training, to put that front and center. And then the rest of it's the same. So just
I would add training and systems then, if you're going to go that way, because you can train, but you might need some systems to back it up.
Okay, so it's training and systems, or put
feedback loops or feedback systems, things like that. And that's generic.
Okay. Staff, do you have that?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that everybody okay with that? Dirk?
Well, this was just something different. This is an easy for me, find and replace, like getting rid of improve. I'd like to see strive to. It's in here a lot, and I would rather we commit to. I think if you ask my wife, striving to do the dishes is different than committing to do the dishes. I just think it speaks better to the intent.
Yes, it does. I totally agree with you. Philosophically, I just worry that because we do have a lot in this, whether we're kind of setting ourselves up for failure, because we will strive to do it and we might be able to do it, but if we commit to do it and we don't do it, it's a farther fall. But I want to open it up to the group. Janice, I love to commit to stuff.
If we commit to doing the dishes and we fail to do the dishes, we aren't very dependable.
Maybe we should go back then.
Okay, somebody else want to speak to this? Commit, strive. Chris.
I agree with the not changing it, because committing to it could lead us to, as you say, something down the road. Strive means that we're working towards and we're trying.
Yeah, commit could also have a huge budget impact.
And we could be held to something too that we don't want to be held to.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else?
I'm feeling the same as well. And when you look at the top, at the strategic initiatives, I think striving is more representative of that than committing.
Okay. Okay, so I think that one's gonna stay there, Dirk.
Okay. We might have to change initiatives to promises. I don't like that either.
Okay, we are moving on to livable growth and development. I think there's a fair amount in here. Who wants to start this one off? Janice.
The only one I had is in 2.7. Sorry, that's one more. It's on the, of course, it's one more down. Is okay, that it's where we talk about supporting tourism Rossland, which is great. But should we also include some of the other business and economic support organizations, like in a general, as a general grouping, that are going to help, with our businesses and economic stuff. And then as an addendum, I thought 3.3, which I know we're going to get to, I thought it should also be in 2, but we can look at that.
Okay, let's start with 2.7. And so
yeah, 2.7. Yeah. So we're supporting Tourism Rossland. Maybe we could change that just to say that we're going to support business and economic support organizations.
Okay.
Or economic growth organizations. And we can leave Tourism Rossland as a specific if we want to, but I think we should broaden it so that as things move forward, if we have the opportunity to have another organization come in and support our businesses, then that's important.
Okay, I'm going to call on Christy and then ask Council for more thoughts on that. Christy.
Just a comment on the Tourism Rossland, just to keep in mind, they're very much on the supply side when it comes to tourism. Their mandates are destination attractiveness for visitors, not economic development. So you might want to specifically mention our economic development firm is not Tourism Rossland.
So a good reason to keep them separate then in the statement.
Or not so specific.
Okay, other comments from Council? And what I see the staff room is up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, even just to remove support Tourism Rossland, because obviously everything that we're doing in 2.7 would be for businesses and or an individual or recruitment or whatever the case may be. So to even just to not have a list of anything there would be generic in nature. That would allow us to do lots of different things, which is already the intent of the initiative.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I like that too.
Okay, yeah. Dirk, you had your hand up. Anything separate from that?
Exactly that. He said it better. I was just going to go with the less is more.
Okay, it's out. Okay, what else? We're still on 2, so we've got some more back above us now.
Kathy, just back to 2.7. Are we sure we're still in the business of attracting new residents? Just checking.
Some.
Yeah, a few.
Just the right ones.
Yeah, okay.
So that's going to go into our growth strategy, right? When we talk about needing a growth strategy.
I don't know, Terry, your sister, she better send in another, letter of support.
There's
pointed out, only up to 5,000. And we're already at 4,100. So the door's about to shut. Okay, so I saw another hand. Chris, were you up?
I just wonder where we're at with the parking and snow storage strategy for the city. It's been high for a couple of years.
Priority. It's a high priority, and we're doing it. We're gonna. And maybe we should not strive to do it. We should promise to do it.
Commit.
So where it's at now is Kristen is kind of the first phase is really just assessing what we have and comparing that to, like, are there issues? Really, we're comparing that to best practices in parking. So unfortunately though, as this year's a COVID year, we don't have the tourism that we would normally see. So, but anyway, we're still doing the counts regardless. So Kristen did a count in the summer on a weekday and a weekend of all the parking downtown. It was actually kind of an interesting project and some interesting results. And she's also going to do another one in the winter after a snowfall, just to account for the number of parking places that store the snow for operations. So that's where we're at. And then we thought we have the data then, and then we can move forward, I thought, with a committee to discuss options to address parking.
That's great. Thanks, Stacy. You know, one thing we really want to do today is, rather than get updates on specific things, though we are curious and we do appreciate it, but we're going to try and make sure we still want these things on the list. And I think it's fair to say, yes, we still want that on the list because it is an important thing. Stuart, I think you had your hand up, did you? You're muted.
Yes, I did. You just mentioned growth strategy. Are we assuming that's covered in 2.1? Or is it? I mean, presumably we want balance in all these things between economic development and affordability and the size of the community. Is that going to be appropriately addressed in our OCP process, or is that a separate initiative? You know, I mean, that should inform many of these things.
Yes, and I actually think, I was trying to see if I had any notes on that, because I think that may be a new one we need to add, and I want to see if I made a point here to add it in any of my notes. I had a bunch into, oh yes, I did. I had add 2.11, examine data and projections to create a sustainable growth strategy.
I was thinking of ribs next, honey.
What's that? Staff, are you speaking?
Yeah, I was just going to say that we could all see, instead of having a separate 2.11 or whatever, we would just add that into review, update, and update, or improve and update city guideline documents, OCP, SSP, design review guidelines, growth strategy could be a combination of that thing because it becomes integrated with all of those activities.
Okay. Okay. I think it is a really important thing. So yeah, so that would be good. Stuart, do you think that works for you?
Yeah, I just, I just want to make sure it's not being missed. It seems right. pretty important variable in many of these things.
Yeah, I think Chris had his hand up, and then Janice.
My only other one would be 2.10 and raising that from low to, or if there's flavor to raise it from low to higher.
Wait, let's just stay on 2.1 for a minute because we haven't quite finished that discussion. So we're good. Everyone, does anyone have any more comments about the growth strategy and 2.1? Janice.
Yeah, I was just going to say, maybe we just add, review and update city guiding documents and apply the information to our growth strategy.
Yeah, but we don't say anywhere here that we have a growth strategy.
No, I know, but if we're putting it in there, we're going to apply the information we get to our growth strategy. Does that work, Stu?
We don't have a growth strategy, so we have to first say we want a growth strategy.
Okay.
Okay, Stu and then Dirk.
The other one was in some of the information I read about the potential for doing a natural asset management plan. Again, is that to be included within any of these other documents, or does it need to be mentioned specifically?
I think we'd add that in the environmental section. Dirk?
Well, both of those, the growth and the limits to growth, and hopefully natural asset management, are going to be in the OCP. We've had the discussion, certainly, of growth of the OCP or a maximum.
Yeah,
I don't want to we don't need to mention it specifically if it's understood to be incorporated in something else. I just want to make sure both those aren't missed.
Yeah. Okay. Staff has something.
Yeah, just with the natural asset management, that's a continuation and a module of our overall asset management plan. So that's all that documentation when we talk about AMIP or asset management planning. it'll basically, you can see a slash says natural assets inventories as well. That's all part of our overall asset management plan. So that can be better defined when we talk about asset management stuff in the strat plan.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
I was just going
to go ahead, Stacey.
That the natural assets is within asset management, and growth management is addressed in the OCP, and that will definitely be the start of the discussion for growth management.
Yeah, I think it's becoming such a important emergent issue that I'd like to see it actually called out there. And OCP and growth management strategy. Yes, it's going to be included in there, but I feel like it needs to be, mentioned specifically. So, and I don't know, like I'm assuming like review and improve and update all city guiding documents. Does that include, things like our short-term rental policies, the informational brochures and packets and facts for developers and residents that Stacey's talked about? Do we need to put that in there, or is that just assumed included in those guiding documents? Does that work for staff?
That's all part of the continuous improvement process when you dial down into the specific details of the operational needs of the requirement, not to be confused with the strategic review of what we're doing on the high level side of things is what we're trying to focus on right here today.
Okay, that sounds great. It's just, I know those things have been on the burner for a while and I didn't know if we needed to give them a nudge, but that's good. And I'm glad that Kristen is there, so Stacey has some support. Okay, so let's see, anything else in 2? I'm wondering 2.5, if that needs to be edited, because we're already kind of, moving beyond some of that rationalization of the cost benefit analysis on moving City Hall to other city-owned property, justification, ultimate use of other city-owned. Like we've already looked at the arena, we've kind of addressed City Hall, we're perceiving status quo elsewhere. Is that still relevant to all of us, including staff? Janice?
Why don't we just take the part in the brackets out? I mean, I think it's important that we continue to rationalize city facilities and amenities.
Yep.
But we've sort of done what was in the brackets. So yeah, we don't need to specify that anymore. It's just an ongoing process that's part of our plan.
That makes sense. Staff?
I was also going to say that we already are doing that, which is fine. And I would actually maybe recommend that we actually look at doing this to high, because the other aspect about the rationalizing city facilities, and it was never, ever a problem until we had COVID. And so obviously we have a lot of information and requests coming in from recreation specifically about trying to relocate programming that was eventually indoors to now outdoors. So that comes into our facilities and or amenities, right? So that would be kind of more of a higher thing. And it's not just about the demographics, it's about other conditions, which it's obviously a one-off. Who knows if we're going to have pandemics happen again? I'm probably going to for sure. But that just kind of made us really review how we look at delivering services.
Okay, that sounds
exceptional customer service.
Yes, we're after that. Okay, I'm going to call on Christy and then Janice.
We also haven't necessarily finished with this. We still have the pool, we still have tennis coming up, and we still have a number of park requests like Brian had alluded to there. So I definitely think this is still ongoing.
Yeah, what we're talking about doing is just taking out the bracket part and move it to high. Okay, Janice, you're up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, maybe we wanna add facilities and services or facilities and amenities. As Brian mentioned, we're looking at a lot of programming changes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not just the hard shells. It's again, service excellence.
Okay, all right, that sounds like a good change. Elma.
Thinking maybe you could add something that had to do with how various facilities are using energy and how they're meeting the renewable target.
Yeah, I like that. Put those words in. Okay, Cynthia, if you're missing anything, speak up so we repeat. Otherwise, I think we're all saying we like that addition. I'm going to call on Terry and then Janice.
Could you please?
Yeah, we need that one again. We missed that one.
Okay, Elma, speak.
Oh, that we incorporate something about those buildings' energy requirements and how they're meeting the 100% renewable targets.
Yeah. Yeah, so it does still include changing demographic, but there's a lot more than demographics. It's also, you know, energy efficiency. I've totally forgotten. I think Terry was next. Oh, you're muted.
Isn't that just awesome? We're talking about COVID and the changing dynamics of our world this year. And I think, and this, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but back up to our sort of core operating principles or values, I think we need to look at resiliency and adaptability. You know, we've got a lot of programs that are premised on this is the way the world is, and suddenly our whole paradigm's been blown out of the water. So I'm going to suggest that, again, I can't believe I'm saying it, but add a couple more words around resiliency and adaptability in how we in our planning processes. And I think that belongs up higher in the document back on those value pieces, but it just occurred to me as I heard about those things.
So can you tell us where you would add it and what you would add specifically?
Back up to those. I think it belongs under the core values piece up higher, and oh, maybe there. Back down. Strategic priorities. Sustainable service delivery. No, I don't know. Go back up a bit more, please. Forgive me, folks.
Into the words.
Right in there. In all of our decision-making activities, we will prescribe to the following core paradigms. Now, I know we changed that, but adaptability and resiliency. So how do we make buildings that are adaptable? How do we have policies and pricing on things because of COVID, where we need to, you know, think about more what ifs. What if we're stuck in this pandemic for 2 more years? Heaven forbid.
So innovative would help, but responsive, innovative, responsive, those things kind of hit that.
Adaptable would be a solid addition, I think.
Yeah.
I do like resilient.
Or resilient. What are those?
3 to 1.
Okay, resilient.
Pull out bold and approachable and responsive and throw in resilient.
I think we should still be approachable. We don't want to be these, you know, people that nobody wants to talk to.
Do you guys understand what I'm trying to say? Did I mangle that?
No, you didn't at all. I'd agree with throwing out bold and putting in resilient and adaptable. How about that? Everybody okay?
I like bold, but go for it.
Well, you know, we've only got so many words we can use. Or you want to take something else?
Just add it, and then we can look at it.
And then just cheat everybody.
Yeah. Bold has always been, for me, it's been like, you know, we're willing to take chances and willing to be leaders as far as the community goes. So it's...
Sorry, I was going to say I'm willing to have the difficult conversations.
Okay, so we won't take out anything. We're just, sorry, Dirk, we're adding something. We're not taking out. We'll just add resilient and adaptable.
As long as you take out core. Take out core.
We already took out core. Yep. We took out core. That's gone. And we took out paradigm. These are just our following values, or our following whatever they are. Staff can figure out a word for what they are. This is our MO. Okay, that's good. Good. Okay, so back to where we were. I think we were still in the 2s. Anything else in the 2s? Janice?
I was just going to say that I really like Elma's suggestion about making sure that we have something about our facilities and amenities meeting environmental standards, but we do have a whole section on environmental goals or plans further down. So maybe before we decide to put it in development, we might want to put it down in there. We should put it somewhere, but this might not be the section.
Well, let's put it in here, and then when it comes back to us, and we'll see if we have too much redundancy if we hit it somewhere else too, because I think it does livable growth and development. I think that is, important in there. Let's see, we have Chris.
Back to 2.10. I'd like to see us looking a little bit harder at broadband and getting it here. If there's any way, if there's any flavor of raising it from low to a higher priority.
Hold on. Oh, I see. 2.10. Yeah. Okay. Ensure broadband reaches residential, non-core business. Okay. I mean, one of the reasons that's low is because that's not a service we provide. That's private industry, right? So I'm not sure. Elma says it costs money. True. A lot of things cost money. I mean, that's true. If we wanted to make this a higher priority. And, I was always really in favor of this until I talked to some of the people who actually are the digital workers in town. And they're like, hey, my broadband's great at my house. I don't need more. So I'm wondering, I always thought this was a huge thing, but I'm not entirely sure that it still is. And maybe, I don't know, Dirk, you work from home. You need more internet?
I hear it regularly enough. I think it would be beneficial. I think we're scraping by now with the offerings, but instead of ensuring broadband, why don't we throw it to medium, but advocate for? I mean, we can try to get it here. We're not going to do it ourselves, but we certainly advocate.
Yeah, okay.
Especially the EDTF, I think.
Yeah, sorry, I appreciate that we're talking about broadband, but can we just go back and finish the last thing to make sure we know where we wanted to put the talk about the adaptable environmental stuff in section 2.1 in regards to amenities and making sure that we're going to be energy efficient and stuff like that, so we can focus on that, because it's kind of hard to see you guys when we jump around like this. Sorry.
I was gonna suggest Stacy might have a suggestion at the best location for this.
Okay, we're talking about the comment that Elma made about looking at the energy efficiency. We were talking about that in 2.5, that we weren't just talking, I think, Elma, correct me if I'm wrong, that we were talking about meeting the changing demographics. We're getting rid of the part that's in the parentheses.
Right. So we have it a note to add that activity under 2.5, but then there was the discussion about putting it somewhere else in there. So if we could just finalize that conversation, that would be great. Thanks.
Okay. Well, we weren't quite sure where that was going to go until we were thinking maybe in the environmental section, but I was suggesting we hold off until we get to the environmental section and then put it in there. But I'm going to call on Dirk and Stu. First, Dirk.
Yeah, just I have a point I'd like to talk about when we get to section 6.1 to make that an umbrella kind of statement that should cover it.
Okay, so I'd like to wait until we get there, Brian, if you're okay with that. Just put it in here with a note that once we see the draft, it might get deleted from one place.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Just a little bit more clarity would be great for us on these things. Thanks.
Okay, Stuart, you had your hand up.
Yeah, it just seemed to me like we're already covering this between 6.1 and 6.4 and 6.5. We've got a lot of environmental considerations going into everything, don't we?
Well, we may, but why don't we just leave it here as kind of a placeholder, and when we get there, then we'll see if we all feel it's well covered. Can we do that?
Sounds good. And just one more comment based on Councillor Spooner's comment, which is actually 100% correct, is that these things aren't meant to be done in isolation, right? Everything is integrated to each other. And so even though we look at 2.1, there's sections under 2.1 in other parts of things in the strat plan and things that we do operationally that we don't even have, like the council doesn't see that we do from an operational perspective. So just again, remember that we're looking at high level stuff that we can kind of then like core down into do stuff operationally, but everything does link together. So if it's not covered in somewhere, the intent is there. That comes into the management side of things, and then the corporate management plan would then talk about what specific actions would be getting done on the strategic priority of council, and that's how this kind of stuff links together, just as a point of interest.
Okay, and that's a very good point of interest. Okay, so I want to look at 2.6 briefly. And that is that we have appropriate long-term tax strategy in place. It's a medium priority, but one of the things, having just heard that the WHO says the second year of COVID could be worse than the first, we need to be mindful about taxes. And I'm wondering if this, I know we've asked for some reports. Janice had made a motion a couple of meetings back about, I think, about impact of changing our tax strategy a little bit. So I would just like to say that perhaps that should be high. And we've got a review of commercial taxes, I think, coming up, and along with a couple other things, but it seems to me that that's a really important one. So anybody have any disagreement with making that high? Okay. Okay, 2.6 high. And then comments now, we're still gonna finish off 2 here. The only thing I would say on 2.8 is that we've got our climate change, mitigation, adaptation, all of that stuff. Should we put the specific priorities that we talked about for the 100% renewable in here, or is that just enough to say we're doing the 100% renewable? Any comments? I'm fine.
Well, Brian had said high level, so that's what I was kind of thinking. That's what it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we already have a draft language in there that says something about continuing to implement general climate change mitigation and adaptation strategies within for the city, and we have IEs, keep 100% renewables, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that becomes more generic, I think, which would be suitable from a staff perspective, but it's council's discretion.
Okay. And then the only thing else I would say is, because we have just adopted this, aggressive plan to 2050, should it be still a medium or should it be high as a priority? So, okay, I'm going to leave that one. We're moving on to 3. No one else on 2. So we're moving on to 3, which is our communications and community engagement. Comments there, Dirk.
A couple comments. One, I think the thing that I hear the most on council is the city doesn't listen. And while I don't think that's true, I think it speaks to this sentiment that perhaps we don't. So if symbolically, if we could move this to number 1 rather than 3, and then for 3.2, I wouldn't change it. I would just put it to high. I think a communication strategy, some sort of avenue, web-based or something, for more continuous communication, I think would serve the city and the residents well.
Okay, I'm not sure about moving it to 1 because I don't know what else that impacts, because we've got our buckets all sort of
right
up. So I'm not sure about that. Maybe it doesn't matter, but I would agree that we could move that to a high priority. Staff comment?
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are just the point of, there's just a topic discussion. So changing it from 3.2 to 3.1, again, it doesn't mean that it's higher priority. It's just a bullet underneath that section. So changing whatever way the order is underneath the specific bullets does not mean anything. It's more about what it is that we want to do and what the priority of it is. Also noting the fact that definitely with moving things too high, if everything becomes high priority, then nothing is a priority. So just to have that in mind. And secondly, the refresh the city webpage and improve user experience. We've already kind of doing that through our community safe restart plan, and we have an RFP for that already. So that will be changed to high just from an internal perspective because we want to get that done this year.
Okay, I think I misunderstood Dirk. I thought he was talking about making communication, community engagement, which is section 3.0, make it 1.0. Yeah, doing from 3.2 to 3.1 isn't a problem.
And it was only symbolic, just as a, like, hey, city really is listening.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so do we want to do, what do we want to do there, guys?
I'd like to make 3.2 high. I think that's really, really important.
Okay, okay. Any other comments on that? Anybody agree or disagree? Thumbs up if you agree.
It's just, it's a significant piece of, it's a major chunk of work.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll dust off the communication strategy that we did when I first became mayor back in 2014, and we didn't implement all of it. So maybe that's a good place to start. And maybe this kind of communication strategy is something that council can work on and not have a whole lot of staff time involved in it. We can do it. That's what we did last time, actually. Stuart.
Yeah, I think we're doing just fine on communication. Whether we invest resources and time into going out there and trying to reach people where they are, I mean, that's a lot of work, and for what reward? I mean, we do all sorts of things. We're available. We provide the information. We're not out there, you know, trying to draw people into making it a concern of theirs. But the people that are concerned, we've got everything available. I don't really see value in doing more.
Okay, Terry, and then Andy.
And our OCP process gives, we're going to have ample strategies there for people to bring forward their ideas and concerns about how we can better collaborate. So we've got a shovel-ready communications project that's hitting the road right now. So I'm concerned that if we make this a high priority, we're really gonna, there could even be public input fatigue.
Yeah, good point.
I hear you, Dirk, but I think we've got it.
Andy and then Chris.
The only thing I was wondering if it needs to be targeted differently. So like, what were we talking about when we're talking about communication, or where the improvements could be had? So I was thinking that maybe we need to narrow that down before we, establish its priority. And it's not a broad, I don't think it's a broad requirement for us to create, a whole different communication policy or whatever, but maybe there's places that we do need tweaking, and that those are high priorities.
Okay.
Maybe
Chris,
that's what Dirk is referring to as well.
Chris, did you have something?
I mean, we constantly need to get better at communication, and we need to be better all the time. It looked like this is somewhat twofold, though, communication policy and a communication or community engagement strategy. So the policy part is, I think, where we might want to start, and then a strategy around the policy. Now, what would the policy look like?
Okay, well, you know what? I'm backing off here. I'm kind of agreeing that we should leave it as medium, and that we as council should look at this ourselves as a group. So, because I think it's really a lot of what we're talking about is really us, council, communicating with the community and getting the community to communicate with us. And Terry's point about the OCP is a really good one, because there's going to be a lot of outreach to the community, and we don't want, engagement fatigue. Okay. So I'm going to suggest that we leave this, but then a note to all of us, we get together on our own and talk about it a little bit more, but leave it as is. Stuart.
Yeah, I just think we have a lot of, compared to any other community I'm aware of, we have more communication with our residents than just about anybody. We're very engaged. We could imagine something better, but it's not like we're not doing it.
Right, that's true. Okay, so I'm going to say we're going to leave that okay, unless I see 4 hands go up that say we shouldn't. Okay. I did have one I wanted to add here at 3.4, and it goes back to the customer service. So it would be support excellent customer service communications through management, monitoring, and training for all employees with any public contact. So that goes back to sort of in that initial thing. So did everybody get that? And okay, Terry, speak to it.
And question, aside from public input sessions at our council meetings, what feedback loops do we have? Do we have comment cards? I know that we've got emails, people can email us. What else? Is there anything sort of institutional in terms of feedback, a place where people could, complain, give beefs or bouquets to staff or council?
Yeah, a lot goes through email, but there is a form that people can fill out to file a complaint that gets followed up with by law. But yeah, it's one of the things that I have actually heard is that sometimes people put in a request to the city and they don't hear anything, or they don't hear anything in a timely fashion, or what they hear is maybe a little cryptic because somebody hasn't put customer service front and center. They're doing their job for sure, and they're accurate, but the person comes away feeling like, oh, well, that was a snarky response. And so I think that is really, that's a training issue. It really is. It's how people interact. And I don't want staff to get defensive about this, because obviously it isn't everybody. Obviously it isn't all the time. Sometimes citizens are very aggravating, as we all know, but I think we can do better in that regard. And I'd like to see this little piece in there. Staff.
Yeah, so not that we're getting defensive about it, this is the fact that we've never ever actually heard about this before. So to sit down and talk about that stuff and say that there's staff training that's required for that stuff, obviously when we look at customer service, the difference between customer service and getting the answer that you want is a completely different aspect and making everyone happy. I think that we actually do great customer service, but you know, there definitely is room for improvement. It's part of our training program. But the thing is, when we hear this stuff from council, and I have never heard about this at all, so there's no chance for us to even take a look and update this stuff. I know it's great that it can go in the strat plan, but the other opportunity would be that if something's not happening, then it should be directed to staff so we can have the ability to follow up on this. So it's just, I'm just a little bit surprised that I'm hearing about this from in the context that we are hearing about it. That's all. It's just a
but Brian, we can talk about that off, but there have been incidences and we have talked about them. So we can talk about it another time on that. Christy.
Just to answer Terry's question there too, some of that is departmental, depending on the service specific. So, you know, Kathy talked about bylaw, which is more, you know, snow removal or parking or, you know, specifics like that. I know for us in rec, when it comes to our programs, we do a lot of engagement ahead of time to develop the programs, and then we follow up with all participants after with a follow-up survey about the program, the instructors, and the registration process. And then Kathy, you mentioned the communication strategy that was written. I did have a breeze through that, but it focused a lot on specific fonts, standardizing email signatures, things like that. The communication strategy that I've reviewed, and maybe I'm looking at an old one or a wrong one, was really specific to stuff that we're sort of, you know, the organization seems to be picking away at anyways. I think Chris mentioned that overall strategy, which is maybe not something, a document I've come across yet. The communication
I'll look for it.
Plan was specific.
Yeah, I'll look for it because it did have specific things about how often we were going to, well, I think like how often we were going to send out the newsletters or how often, you know, things that were going to happen, you know, well, there were things like group meetings, you know, where you'd have a coffee in town and counselors would take turns and, you know, there's all kinds of stuff and I'll have to find it. It's a long time ago and I think I have it somewhere.
Just because on the communication side, when it comes to those, you know, just as a small example, I'm in the middle of looking at those newspaper ads that we put out bi-weekly, and we simply just don't have much content anymore. I don't even know if it's, you know, worth continuing with the expense because we're sort of filling it with stuff at this point. Maybe that's COVID. So it means we have less stuff to share as we're doing less, but you know, it seems like we do have communication channels in place that we could be better utilizing versus coming up with a whole new strategy or plan.
Yeah, for sure. It's a really good point. Good point. Okay, so are we good with adding the 3.41 on excellent customer service? Janice, you had something?
No, it has nothing to do with that though.
Okay, Stuart?
Let's finish that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against excellent public customer service. It just seems to be, you know, a critique of the professionalism of our public-facing staff. And I mean, they definitely should be professional, and we should have excellent customer service. And other than sort of a motherhead statement that yes, that's what we should want, I'm not sure that it require, you know, where this is a strategic goal. I mean, you know, I think all our staff and all of council should be professional in their interactions, but does that require a point in our plan?
Okay, Terry.
And I think we did have that at least once, and I think twice already now around excellent customer service too. So I think we've got that covered.
Okay, anybody else? No? Okay, we're going to leave that out. I'm disappointed in that actually because I think the plan doesn't talk enough about the importance of that. I mean, I come from a sales management background, and there's a lot of improvement that can be made. And I'm not saying our staff doesn't do a good job. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think it's an important thing, and it's out there. But you guys don't want it. We're gonna skip on. Okay, I think we're done with 3.
We didn't say we didn't want it, Kathy.
Oh, I was hearing we didn't want. So okay, we'll go back. Janice.
No, just a sec. I think just your point. My last comment was I think we've got that covered, and maybe it's not in the degree of specificity that you need or that you're thinking of, but I think we've stressed at least once or twice that we want to shift focus to a customer focused approach, or excellence in customer service. So I'm feeling good that we've got that. Maybe
okay.
It needs to
Janice,
be
anything new to add? Janice, did you want to speak?
I did, but it wasn't about the excellence in customer service, although I do agree. I think we've covered it. I just think 3.3 should be in section 2. It's all about development.
Right. Okay. Right.
It's so teeny tiny thing. It's about developing economic development services, et cetera, et cetera. I think it should be up in section 2.
Yeah, I think you've got a good point, because it's really not as much about communication unless it's communication with.
Yeah, it's about development.
So yeah, okay. So
that's all.
It pretty much fits with 2.7. Seems a little bit redundant in my mind.
Yeah, although it talks more about regional partners, and the other one doesn't talk so much about partners. Why don't we leave those two with staff to wordcraft it, wordsmith it up for us, and that can work. Stuart.
My understanding of why we have two, I'm not sure where they should go, but one is in our actual operations and our actual activities, and 3.3 is, out connecting with those other regional opportunities. So by the fact that it's separate from us, that means it does require communication and engagement to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's getting kind of thin. I could see them combined into one if they were just wordsmithed properly. What does anybody else say? So, Stuart, are you saying you see the merit of having them separate?
I mean, 3.3 seems a pretty, low priority thing. I don't even know why we even need to talk about it. But, it is a distinct thing. Then, we're going to improve our city to be attractive. And then the other one is we're going to, work with our regional partners to make the region, that's about connecting with the region.
Yeah.
They are two things.
Yeah, they are two things, but I think they could be, we could walk and chew gum at the same time and put them both in one.
Sure, I don't care.
Probably work that out. Christy.
Yeah.
I think if I remember right, that one was put in right at the time that the LCIC was under fire, and when Trail was withdrawing funding to the LCIC. And I seem to remember that was put in specifically to show Roslin's support ongoing for that organization as our regional economic development firm. I might be wrong, but that's my memory of that one.
Yeah, that could have been. Well,
and I agree. That was, the regional district was the collaborative effort between all the East N7 minus Trail to keep that service going.
Okay, well, they're both low priority. Why don't we just add something about work with regional partners in 2.7 and delete 3.3? Everybody good with that? Anybody not good with that? Okay. Okay, so now we are working on 2.4, sustainable service delivery. Yeah, okay. Anybody have anything on 4? Not seeing any hands. Well, now, I don't know. This could be, Dirk, okay, go.
For 4.5, these are the things that were, when I was reading it, the last third of that and the first 4 words of that are pretty redundant. So this was part of my red pen effort that I've kept relatively quiet.
So you want to just take out the part in parentheses?
No, that's fine, but invest and continue to, it's kind of an ongoing thing that seems redundant to me. And then reduce repetitive work and streamline work by current and future employees seemed awfully redundant. We're not going to get computer stuff to make it harder unless we put Minesweeper on everything.
Okay, so Well, one of your thing was to get rid of improve, where improve is, so it would just be invest in computer technology within city facilities, or no, not even need that. What do you want to say?
Well, things like invest in it to create increased productivity. I mean, increasing productivity seems redundant to have that in there. I don't know why we have to point.
What do you want to say? Give us the phrase, give us how you want it.
I don't know, just modernize computer technology.
Okay. How's that? Everybody good with that? Sounds good to me. Modernize computer technology. Okay. That's it. So much shorter. Okay. So I had one in here, and I don't know if we want to do it or not, but I really got excited by what was in the public works background part. So this would be adding to 4, it'd be 4.10. Support investigation of possible generation of electricity on sewer line from Roslyn to Warfield. No, because I thought that seemed kind of cool. It would be a low priority, but it'd be nice to have it on the radar. What do people think about that?
I think that was mentioned earlier. Trying to think that, or maybe it later on in the report.
It's mentioned, but not in the strat plan. It's mentioned in the background material from Public Works, which is why I was moving it into the strat plan.
Well, there's certainly probably going to be an opportunity in the next while, and grants being announced, that we may be very much in a position to seek some support there.
Let's see what staff says.
Yeah, just so same idea, different section is that those are all things that we gave into the background, is stuff that we're working on an operational perspective, which is already done because of the fact that we have strategic priorities to look at doing that. So to sit down and dial back down into specific projects at this level is really not where we're at for this one. So just as another kind of thing that those are things that will come out of the corporate management plan, not so much I think that should be involved with the strategic plan, but that's just staff suggestion.
Okay, you know what, I'll go with that. I was feeling like it was getting a little specific, but I just got excited about it because we talked about that for Washington Street. We're never able to pull it off, so it's kind of cool. Okay, anything else in 4, or we're going to move to recreation and culture? Anything else for 4? And staff, you guys can call on too. Moving on to 5 then. Oh, Dirk, you have something else?
Just with 4.7, the first words there, like work with regional and provincial partners or independently to reduce costs. Why don't we just get rid of that and say reduce costs and then carry on? But I mean, we identify that we're going to work with the province and municipalities or individually. We're kind of just saying we're going to do it by whatever means necessary.
Great. Reduce the cost of shared services such as fire protection, improve local ambulance service. Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, we can't do any of that independently. So you need to take out, you need to take out independently for sure, because we can't do it independently and we can't do it without regional and provincial partners. So if you take out regional and provincial partners, that means you think you can do something independently, which we can't. So I'd be willing to take out independently, but not the others. And honestly, I don't know that we have hope in hell of doing that at all. What do you think, Andy?
You don't want to know what I think right now. So, yeah, I mean, it does seem to be a bit of a stretch to consider an option there on the independent. So I don't know. Continuing to work with partners. Yeah, I think that's important. That's the options we go out right now.
Okay, Stuart.
I think we take out independently and we move it to low so that it's at least we're open to possibilities, but it's not actually something we're working on because we got no idea how to work on it.
Yeah, I'd go along with that. How do people feel about that? Take out independently and put it at low. All okay? Looks like good. Okay, Cynthia, you got it? Okay, so now we're moving on to 5. Recreation and culture, everybody's favorite. What have we got in there? Anybody have some comments there? Everybody, Janice.
The only comment I had was in 5.3.
Yep. And
take out the word more. Just invest in the summer recreation opportunities we're already providing. We seem to have lots of them. People stayed this year, did lots of things, so I'm not sure we need more. We just need to.
You don't want that. You don't want that lake in the reservoir.
Oh, I want a lake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think even if we took out more, we could still consider investing in a lake in the reservoir. Like, it doesn't mean that we're not. But yeah, I'm fine with taking out more. Stuart.
I think we're always aware of it, but we're not actually working on it. But 5.2 could go to low, just so that it's on our radar, but not something we're actually doing.
Okay, I want to finish with 5.3. Everybody okay to take more out? Yes, we're all good. Okay, now 5.3. Stuart, what are you saying?
I'm saying 5.2.
Yeah.
Low again, like with fire services. It's a good thing we'd want, but it's not something we're going to do. Okay. So let's make it low.
Yep. I'm okay.
And I'd like to have a recreation master plan actually happen, which probably isn't going to happen if it's always low. So maybe at least a medium, just to make it a possibility.
Okay. Dirk. Muted.
I had to do it once. I would like to see that also medium or higher, and also simply create a recreation master plan. We don't need all the other stuff because that's kind of understood in it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And yeah, simplify. Stuart.
And just to be more concise, we could just support new arts and culture initiatives.
Okay.
Yes.
Wait, I think we're going too far. I want to make sure we're good on what we've said so far. Cynthia, do you have what we've said so far? We're changing some priorities, we're taking out more, we're doing stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so support, let's see, now we're on 5.5. Stuart, you said?
Support arts and culture initiatives.
Yeah.
We don't need activities related to, and we aren't all initiatives new?
Yeah, okay, do we need to make any, I think we need to make a reference to heritage here. And culture, it's like arts, culture, heritage, because we did adopt a heritage management plan, and we did forward the arts plan. So I think it's worth mentioning, if not specifically, even more specifically.
I was going to say, should it maybe be 5.6?
No, I think you can support activities, or wait, what was the new wording? Support arts, culture, and heritage initiatives.
Beautiful.
How about that? Okay, we see some positives. Perfect. Any more comments on that? We're going to go to staff.
I was just going to say, we can maybe just change that section 5 to recreation, culture, and heritage, and then throw in support arts and culture and heritage initiatives. So it covers generic, so it's more top of mind to everybody.
Perfect. I think that sounds great. Okay.
Should we have something in there with regards to the TRP? Like 5.2 could speak to that.
Well, that's regional recreational amenities. That is TRP. And
that is that.
We're not going to, that's the thing whose name we do not speak, but it's recreation, it's regional recreation.
So support efforts could go away.
Support efforts to seek out affordable access to regional.
How about seek out affordable access to regional recreational amenities?
More is less. No, wait, less is more.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that, Chris. What was it?
Remove support efforts to and just have seek out affordable access to regional recreational amenities.
Seek out affordable access to regional recreational. Yeah, sure. Sounds good. Cynthia's got it. Okay, the only thing in recreation, culture, and heritage that we now have, and this may not be in the strat plan, but it needs to go somewhere, because I've been mayor since 2014 and been trying to get an indigenous land acknowledgement. And I do see that as a specific thing, not a strategic thing, but honestly, I don't know how we do it. I've been trying to work with the museum on it, and they keep getting the runaround too. So that's more a comment, but when we talk about heritage and culture, we need to do that. So I'm not sure that goes in the strat plan, but it definitely needs to go on the task list, I guess. Okay, moving on to 6. Here we go to 6. Who's got some 6? Dirk.
Yeah, I'm 6.1. I like that it's still high. I would tweak it just to say include 100% renewables in all city decisions. Simplify it and make it more direct. We got the plan, and I just think that's the umbrella thing I was talking about earlier.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Okay, say it again slowly.
Include 100% renewables in all city decisions.
Okay, so 100% renewable plan, I think.
Yeah, renewable plan.
Yeah. Okay, Andy?
What about including the fact that it's 2050 plan? So by 2050 or something that references the actual title.
Yeah, we could reference the whole plan name in there. I don't have a problem with that. Dirk, is that all right with you?
That's fine with me.
Okay, other comments on that? I think it's a good suggestion. No, okay, Cynthia's got that. What else hold on, 6? Maybe else on 6, Stu.
Again, just the grammar. Incentivize helping seems sort of, isn't actually what we're trying to do. We're either want to incentivize our community or we want to help our community. We don't want to incentivize helping.
Okay, so incentivizing is probably giving them money. Yeah, okay.
Either I can go with incentivizing or helping.
Okay, Janice.
I was going to say helping could be giving them money or encouragement, or covers a bit of a broader, whereas incentivizing says we're just going to pay you to be more environmentally aware. So I take
help our community move towards a reduced carbon footprint. Dirk.
Incentivizing is, to me, less paying to move somebody forward. It's reducing the costs to moving forward.
Yeah. Staff.
Just a comment from staff here was saying that maybe we could just change it to saying assisting our community to move towards a reduced carbon footprint.
Okay. Yep. Like that. I see lots of shaking, nodding heads. Except Dirk. You okay? Okay. Okay. We're good with that one. What else? Andy.
Something about step code in here, potentially. Specific to maybe?
Well, isn't that what 6.2 is? That's what the step code program came out of, is our strat plan 6.2.
True, but I was thinking something a bit more specific mentioning it.
What about 6.4?
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like we had something about step code somewhere. Any staff comment on that? I'm trying to see.
Step code comes under as like an operational decision that comes under either 6.2 or 6.4. It could even be 6.1. It's a way to reduce carbon emissions in new buildings. So it is covering all of those higher strategic goals.
Yeah, I think we'll keep it high level. Okay, so I had one, and this one would take some discussion. This is 6.4. Implement best management practices and strategies related to climate change adaptation and mitigation activities, and create a consolidated and updated climate action plan, which would mean pull all our various and sundry climate action documents together under one roof and one thing. Stuart and then Dirk.
My understanding is that's happening as part of the OCP.
Yeah.
Well, at least tells me that's what she's doing.
Oh, good. Good. Dirk.
Yeah, that was my more eloquent version of what I would say.
Okay. All right. So yeah. Okay. Then maybe we don't need it. I'm not positive that's going to happen, but maybe. Stacy, is that happening to you? Yep.
I didn't realize that was happening either. I think definitely the OCP will contain policies that will lead us in that direction. But actually leading the climate action plan as a document and strategy to move us forward. Yeah, the OCP is part of it for sure, but it's not all of it.
Yeah. I'm not sure we're going to capture it there. There's a staff hand up. Is that not Stacy?
Yeah, no, I was just saying if we stuck to the generic lingo about the implementation, like implement best management practices and strategies related to climate change adaptation and mitigation activities, because there's always going to be more that are coming. We have to look at everything that we've done. Sorry, printer's going off here. You have to look at everything that we've done and try to figure out how everything talks to each other. So, because every like the SKEEP and 100% renewable Kootenays, and even some of that stuff is going to get migrated into our asset management planning activities. And so all the documents that we have to kind of align and try to figure out what the strategy is. So I think keeping that one in there for the time being, the way that is, gives us some time to sit down and go, not only are we doing what we say we're doing now, we're also open to changing things, what happens in the future on an operational perspective.
Okay, so you're saying we don't need to create a consolidated, updated climate action plan?
No, because that's kind of that's an operational activity to make sure that all of our different documents are talking to each other and are synergized with each other.
Okay, I'm good with that. If everybody else is good with that, I don't see any other comments. All right, moving on to, okay, so this was one I wanted, and this maybe go into the same, hold on, no, we're not quite there yet. I had one more 6, 7, and this staff may not think this is necessary, but I did want to add creation of an inventory of our natural assets. But Brian, from what you said before, it sounds like this is already included in our asset management plan. I just don't remember seeing anything in our asset management plan about natural asset.
So asset management plan is a huge undertaking, right? So we have to systematically look at doing stuff. And so before we jumped into the natural asset side of things, we had to have documentation and controls and software and updates and kind of inventory of where we do right now for our human built inventory, which is our infrastructure. So natural asset management is kind of a subcategory of asset management. And so that all that stuff's going to get captured every time that we talk about asset management plan. We're going to basically have a slash. Natural assets would be included in that. So natural assets and built assets are kind of is our asset management.
Okay.
So we don't need a specific thing for that.
Okay, I'm good with that. All right, now we're moving on to the SWOT, and I think we can see if we have anything we want to add to that. So first, does anybody have any strengths we want to add? Dirk, you've got your hand up. Not for strengths.
I only added one at all.
What's that?
Nope, no strengths.
Okay, no strengths. Anybody have any strengths? I'm going to say no strengths. How about additional weaknesses? Anybody have any additional weaknesses? Janice?
I don't actually have an additional one, but we have in there undiversified tax base. And I know that's been discussed amongst the city, especially the council previously. But because I have been, mulling around looking at a lot of stuff, I mean, there are an awful lot of really successful, resilient, sustainable communities that have similar tax bases that we do. So I'm not sure it's a weakness. It might actually be a strength.
I'd love to have something that isn't residential tax based to help. Personally.
But there are lots of communities that have exactly the same tax base that are very successful, very resilient, very attractive. They're not suffering because of it. So it may have seemed like it may seem in some ways like a weakness, but I'm not sure it really is overall to the community.
Okay, do you want to remove undiversified tax base from the weakness list then?
I'd like to.
Okay, now Terry had his hand up. Is this to talk about undiversified tax base or something else?
Something else.
Okay, so I'm just going to, Dirk, undiversified tax base?
Yeah, I think my only comment on that, anything undiversified is only good as long as it's good. But if there's a threat to residential taxes, then having an undiversified tax base is definitely a weakness. So while it's good, but when things go awry.
It's good until it isn't. Okay. Okay, so I just want hands up if you want to delete undiversified tax base from a weakness. Okay.
Oh, well.
Oh, well. Okay, there we go. Okay, other weaknesses. Terry.
Not a lot of depth. This is an idea rather than a statement. So this 30 to 50 year lens, i.e. the energy plan or a strategic sustainability document, that's a really difficult thing, and I'm not sure we or the rest of the world is very good at really looking out far enough for the future. I think we're good at coming up with 10-year plans, and I think on the strength side, I guess I would add that we've got, as we're experiencing the OCP process, we've got a ton of studies and sort of short range stuff, and I'm not sure that our headspace is in big, bold steps that would get us ahead. And I think specifically of climate change, adaptability. I think there's some big moves we should be thinking of, and I don't think we're used to thinking in big moves.
Okay, so a weakness would be lack of long-term vision and projections?
And lack of commitment to, commitment's the wrong word, but we're not used to resourcing, saying this is going to be really important in 20 years from now. And so let's dedicate some thinking and then be prepared to dedicate resources to it too. So, you know, everything feels like we're doing a really good job at incremental steps of getting better.
So to put that in words,
what I wrote down in my thing was, we're not used to undertaking and resourcing bold steps. And I think of sewer plants and solar and forest management and housing. We do lots of little cool things, but nothing that's a step forward. So that long range planning is a challenge.
Okay, so
long range planning and implementation.
So lack of long-term vision and planning. How about that? Because these are just words. These are short words here. We don't put paragraphs in, so it's got to be like.
Yeah. Stretch goals are. We're not good. I don't think we've had many big stretch goals and achieved them. Lots of great stuff. Lots of super good short-term, medium. Dirk, help me out.
Okay, Janice has some ideas, I think, and then I'll go to Dirk. Janice?
I was just going to say, instead of saying lack of, because it's a human nature thing, not a specific council thing, maybe difficulty with.
Okay. Challenge, long-term vision challenge. Dirk?
I agree with a lot of what Terry's saying. Sort of the only counter to that is that as a city, we've done really well with asset management planning. And that is, you know, exactly long-term, paying for it now, preparing for it later idea. So maybe the weakness is just that we haven't incorporated enough things in that, but it sounds like we're working on natural assets and.
Yeah, you know, I actually think we have done, excuse me, particularly for a small municipality, through asset management and also our 100% renewable plan, that goes to 2050, and asset management goes out, I don't know, 100 years or something goes out. I mean, there's a lot of years we have there. So but I understand what Terry's saying, and I think it's true, because I also think it's human nature. So to look for just a couple of words that we could put in there so we keep it in front of us. And Elma is great with words, and I see she's popped on our screen. What do you think?
Well, I don't know about that, but perhaps it's the communication of the long-term plan that's lacking, right? You know, because I think that there's a lot of work being done in planning, and there's a lot being done in finance, and maybe it's just a matter of communicating our progression and what the future looks like, so that you understand what page we're on.
Yeah, that's good. Then we're back to that communication again with Stuart says we're doing a great job with, but maybe we're not communicating the right things. Maybe
yeah, we're going to incorporate like an infrastructure report card into our financial plan. I think that will help. We've been working on that for a couple of years, and now our asset data is at that point where we can present it formally. And then also from the planning side, Stacy and I were talking about like a climate action report card, or show how we're doing and incorporate that into the financial plan as well. So you see that, synergy between planning and finance, and being able to show projections and where we're heading.
I think that's great. And you can tie that into what Christy said about us, having the space in the newspaper that maybe we're not properly utilizing. Maybe some of those big picture things we need to communicate, as opposed to just kind of the facts on the ground. I'm going to call on staff, and then Dirk, and then Stu.
Yeah, so just further to Alma's comments there, obviously talking about doing asset management planning and doing asset management planning are completely different beasts, and it kind of goes on the same as the talking about being 100% renewable by 2050 and doing it are completely different beasts. And so now that we have those plans in place and we have strategies to help us take a look at how we're going to implement those strategies, the problem with municipalities historically, and will continue in for the future, is everyone doesn't want to pay, and we got to look at how we can do these services. But the big link that is part of the asset management plan that we're working towards, which is kind of why we're doing the infrastructure report cards and stuff like that, is to link our 5-year financial plans to our long-term capital plans and our long-term overall arching plans. And that's the struggle and it goes to communication, it goes into resources, and it goes into money and to staff and to those kind of things. And so we're definitely ahead on a lot of stuff, but we get to the point where we can't really do anymore because we run out of the staffing, or we run out of the budget. And that's obviously another whole conversation when we talk about sustainability in regards to financially being able to live in Roslyn in the future, and to implement this stuff in a more strategic nature than going from like A to B really quickly. So that's a struggle that we struggle with, obviously from a staff perspective, that the city struggles with, that council will struggle with, and the next council will struggle with, and the council after that will struggle with, and the councils that have become before you have struggled with. So just keeping that in mind is that's just kind of that we're definitely a dot along the line here, and we're doing very, very, very well. And some things could be weakness, some things could be a strength, some things could be a threat, some things could be an opportunity. So not to get super bummed down on where we are on the quadrant, because it's always subject to change.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, Dirk, and then Stu.
Yeah, I think just to kind of get the flavor of what Terry was saying and touch on what Janice said, we could put in there as a weakness the general human aversion to change.
That's perfect. Definitely. That's good. I like it. Add that, Cynthia. Stuart.
Yeah, I think we just can't get too far ahead of the people. I mean, there's a question of legitimacy with this sort of stuff. We have a lot of planning and we have a lot of forward thinking, but people that live here don't. And I've got all sorts of good ideas for what we could do for the next 50 years, but we need to bring the people along with us. And how do we decide what we're going to do and what our direction should be in 50 years' time? That's a complicated exercise because people aren't thinking in those sort of timelines. And we get ahead of people, we bring them along, but we can only bring them along so far.
That's true, but I think don't underestimate the population, because there's a lot of people in Roslyn who think we are too slow. So it's both sides.
It's diversity of opinion.
Yeah. Okay, I think we should wrap this up. If there's more weaknesses, bring them up, or we have something more to say. Terry or Janice, did I see your little fingers? Terry, go ahead.
Well, just to have a more concrete example, and I'm not saying, so we're doing so many things so well, so I want to just acknowledge that. But when I think, for example, around the biggest threat, one of the biggest threats that I see is fire. And we've got FireSmart, and again, we're a leader in the country on FireSmart, and we're doing great stuff. But I actually see that we haven't gone nearly enough in terms of managing or advocating for what goes on in our forests around our whole town. Because I worked with in healthcare in Williams Lake, and watches what happens when a whole community gets burned out in 12 hours. So those are the kinds of big pieces I'm thinking of there, and I'll stop there. But are we Band-Aid over a bullet hole coming up kind of strategy? So that's when I said weakness. That's I think what I'm looking for. There's a saying, don't take small steps when you actually have to jump across a cliff or across a chasm. So just that's my point again. So thanks.
Yeah. Okay. All right. No other weaknesses. I'll move to opportunities. Do we have some opportunities that we see? This has been a very busy year, different year. Dirk.
Certainly rebuilding from, pandemic, and this is an opportunity to change.
Okay, so how would you want to say that? Rebuilding, post-pandemic rebuilding opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, we're presented with some measure of a reset, so it's a good time to do stuff.
Yeah, good. Okay, Stuart?
Just the trend towards remote working seems to be something that's come on really quickly and doesn't look like it's going to stop, and is definitely an opportunity for our community, and perhaps even a threat. But it's certainly something we should be aware of.
Yeah, I had those also. Let's see, I saw a couple of hands up. Anybody else on opportunities? So yeah, opportunity that more people are going to relocate here, and that's also a threat. So, okay, so threats. We got some threats. Anybody want to say?
Pandemic is the obvious one.
What?
Pandemic.
Pandemic. Good.
Insane policies of populist politicians before. We know when that was prescient to have pandemic in here.
Yeah, maybe we should. Maybe we could take off insane policies by populist politicians. Hopefully they're gone. Janice, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was going to say, just rather than pandemics, I mean, just external, just any external global disruption that we can't see coming and can't control.
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, and it could be a forest fire, or it could be a pandemic, like either one of those.
Could be economic, it could be, it could be 2008, could be, 9/11, could be a pandemic.
Yeah. Stuart.
To be more specific on that, decrease in mobility, reduced tourism, reduced travel, if that's a world we're moving into, if airlines are no longer servicing our airports, if people are less inclined to move around, just that lack of mobility, if that's a longer term change, that's something that's going to affect us.
Yeah, I think that's a good one to include, lack of mobility, and everyone understanding we're not talking about us in wheelchairs, we're talking about the inability of the economy to move forward with lack of visitors. I had store closures, lack of vibrancy in town, poorly executed or poorly adopted rollout of the vaccine, but maybe that's just poor disaster relief, I don't know. Well, instead of populist politicians, we could have civil war or domestic terrorism in the US. That would be a threat to us. Okay, Stuart.
Yeah, I mean, the other one, I mean, the three that came to me out of the pandemic that I think are perhaps longer term trends that I think we need to fit into here somewhere. We've already talked about, people remote working, we've talked about lack of mobility. The other one was the move towards online shopping, whether that's an opportunity that makes it more appealing to live in a remote place, or whether it, decreases the viability of our local merchants. It's definitely a societal change that is going to have implications.
Yeah. Okay, Andy, I think I saw your hand up.
Well, I was just going about the idea of just economic slowdown / collapse, that for the next 2-3 years, looking at some of that information that was at the end of this report, there's certainly going to be impacts, and it's just unknowns for the next while.
Okay, so I think we captured that with economic unknowns, or economic whatever something Stuart had said there earlier. So hopefully that's good. Cynthia, what did you capture from that? Because we had a few threats.
Yeah, we've got unforeseen external disruptions. Under that, we have environmental, travel abilities, and economic factors.
Okay. Yeah, slow recovery, slow pandemic recovery. I think it actually should mention the pandemic, because this is like a pandemic, right? Dirk.
I just wondered if it was worth having isolation tied to the mobility. That reduced mobility also does result in community isolation. I don't know if that's a threat or a benefit, but.
Yeah, no, but it is. That would have economic fallout for sure if we become, nobody comes to see us at all, Okay, so we're good with this. Does anybody want to talk about the staff analysis that was provided? I think that's coming up next, isn't it, after the SWOT? Do we have anything else we want to ask? What's behind here? Is there anything below this on your sheet?
Yeah, no, just a quick note is that the other two documents below that were just supporting documents to help with the decision of talking about this.
Yes, that's right. I just wanted to know if council had any comments or questions about anything that was presented, because it was great information. We really appreciate it. Janice had her hand up, and then Dirk. No, Dirk.
I was fascinated by, and I think it was what Janice put together there on page 35, just the changing demographics. It's like whole bunch of people aged out of 19 and started having babies or retiring here. But it just seemed like a very pronounced change compared to everywhere else.
Yeah, Janice, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, when I looked at that, it really looked like, when you look at those bumps, and of course, you know, the information's 4 years old now, but it sure looks like, you know, young families with babies, and then just anecdotally, there's two things going on with the 60 to, I think it's the 60 to 75 group is, you know, the boomers, that's where they fit now. But also anecdotally hearing that lots of grandparents are moving into town to be closer to their young families with the kids. So it's very interesting to see that those bumps there, and it'll be really interesting in another year and a bit when we can update that and actually have 20 years of data.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so if there's no other comments or questions, we can have a motion to adjourn this meeting, and look at us, we're done before noon. So I think that was pretty cool. Okay, so all in favor of adjournment, we're out of here. You're back just in time to say goodbye, Terry.